Hey, what's up, everyone? Happy Friday to you. Josh of Severe Weather talking about the tropics, but also a major storm set to strengthen off the East Coast and stall, impacting millions of us here on the Eastern Seaboard through the weekend and into early next week. That's going to bring a nasty mixture of heavy rainfall, strong winds, and coastal flooding to many in the mid Atlantic, in particular, even into portions of southern New England and across the Carolinas. We're going to talk about that in the video, as well as storms Jerry and, yes, Karen, and a couple of storms in the Pacific as well, which will be bringing moisture into the Southwest, bringing a heavy rain threat there. So I appreciate you joining me here on this Friday. First of all, I want to give out a shout to those of you that have become new members, top supporters, Pedro and Michael. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you all. And basic members, I don't want to call you basic. Master of Puppies and RAW. Sorry that got cut off. I appreciate you all for becoming a member. And thank you to those of you that are regular followers and subscribers. I couldn't do it without you. So let's talk about what's going on here in the United States first. You can see we've got two active areas in the United States, one on the southeast coast. There's an upper level low moving through southern Georgia into Florida. That's drawing moisture along a front through Florida into the southeast. And this is going to ride up the coast and slow down as it interacts with a larger trough dropping down from the Great Lakes over the weekend, bringing a nasty mixture of strong winds and waves and heavy rainfall to the mid-Atlantic and eventually portions of the Northeast this weekend. But I don't want to ignore those of you on the West Coast. We do have low pressure as well, sending moisture up into Oregon and Washington. And the same trough that's moving that moisture in is going to pull moisture out of two separate systems into the southwestern United States through the weekend and into early next week. These are the two storms that are drawing that moisture into Arizona and the Four Corners region. And that will lead to some unfortunate flooding in some areas as well. So we're going to talk about some more details on that. Here's a look globally at what's going on. And you'll see we actually have 5 named storms on the map and a remnant storm in the Atlantic. We've got Jerry, which is struggling with wind shear. We have Karen, which I don't think should have been named, but technically a subtropical system way out there heading towards Iceland, if that tells you anything. And then 2 storms affecting Mexico. We've got Priscilla and Raymond, both of which mainly rainmakers at this point for western portions of Mexico and the Southwest. And in the Western Pacific, we do have Nakri, which is set to strengthen into a typhoon and curve away from Japan, coming about as close as what the last system did here in a couple of days. And that system is Halong, which has become post-tropical. And both of those systems heading into the North Pacific next week and will likely lead to some big jet stream fluctuations, leading to more active weather across the United States. It hasn't been very volatile across the U.S. over the second half of summer or fall. Overall, it's been a fairly benign pattern, at least I would say, as somebody who has tracked extreme weather, but that could change as we start to track these typhoons recurving across the world. All right, here's Jerry and Karen, both of which are kind of a dog slop at this point. Jerry producing mainly heavy rainfall, some locally strong winds to the northern Leeward Islands. That's beginning to pull away at this point. Winds have weakened to 50 miles per hour. We'll have a new update shortly after this video goes out. The pressure has actually come up to 1,006 millibars. It's moving northwest at 16 miles per hour. Wind shear is the battle Jerry is facing. That is great news for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, but we do have some heavy rain on the eastern side of the system, and we'll have some more detail on that. We do have Karen, which is a subtropical storm, probably going to become post-tropical shortly, way up there in the northeastern Atlantic. I don't know why we're wasting names on these things instead of talking about the bigger story for the East Coast, but I guess it's all about if there's a front or not attached to it. So that's all we got to talk about in the tropics for now. We do see low pressure moving off the African coast. Very small chance it tries to spin up into anything over the central Atlantic, but you'll see those chances fade. Western Caribbean, again, nothing super at least imminent at this point. There will be some lowering pressure to keep an eye on, but right now things are still fairly hostile in this area. We've got a lot of tropical forcing. We're in a favorable, what we call MJO, Madden-Julian oscillation, but it takes a little bit more than just forcing. And this year in particular, the wind shear that's encapsulated the Gulf and the Caribbean has just been a little bit too much for things to really get going in this area. So that's been a very fortunate trend we've had this season. One I didn't fully expect. I'll be up front with you. My forecast is kind of looking pretty bad, but Nonetheless, seasonal forecasts are what they are. They're low skill forecasts. We look at probabilities, we look at analogs, we look at things that could happen. We talk about who needs to be watching. But I will say this, the Western Atlantic, the East Coast of the U.S., that's been highlighted as a target zone for the entire season. And we've certainly had impactful storms in that area. Just not a lot to talk about in the Gulf. And hopefully it will stay that way for the rest of the season here. All right, here's a look at the tropics. And the main feature on the map that you see is Jerry. I know Karen is out there. You've got to squint or pull up a microscope to find Karen right all the way up here. But this is Jerry right here. There's a front and an upper level trough to the north and west, creating wind shear across Jerry, which is bringing lots of rain in the wake of this system. So while it's pulling away from the islands, the rain continues, and we'll talk about that here. We do have a monsoon trough that is activated over the central and eastern Atlantic, but right now, strong westerlies up and over are keeping things from developing. No circulations, just a lot of rain at this point. And then very quiet across the Gulf. Our next area of low pressure taking shape east of Palm Beach, and that is set to move up into this area. And we're going to talk about how that's going to play out here later on in this video. Here's a closer look at the Caribbean. All of the action right now on the corners, the northeast corner and the northwest corner. Not much else to talk about. The Gulf is super quiet right now. We're enjoying a cold front for most, except for Central and South Florida. And talking about a cold front, we have to chuckle because it just doesn't usually happen yet in October, but maybe next week we could squeak out some cooler weather. And here's a look at the Western Atlantic. You can see the high cloud canopy is already making its way into Virginia and southern Maryland. That will continue to extend northward. And so that will protect most of Virginia and Maryland from temperatures that could create frost or anything like that. Pennsylvania, we could still have a cold night. New England for sure, but the cloud cover is going to take over. So likely we've had our coldest night of the season and morning this morning, and tonight will not be quite as cold. Here's a look at the Central Atlantic. Here's Jerry. Still spinning out there, but not as organized as some models were expecting it to be. I believe we had support a couple days ago for this to become a hurricane. That's looking a lot less likely at this point, and that is due to the fact that wind shear is stronger than expected. And here's the Eastern Atlantic with nothing to be super concerned with, but there is a massive wave around Nigeria that we'll have to keep an eye on. And these waves often pulse and then they weaken over time. So we'll have to see if this holds itself together or not. Some models indicate down the road it could be something to watch. Here is Karen, a little bit of a shrimp storm out here, minding her own business, heading towards Iceland. This graphic is from Michael Lowry, put this together, and you can see Karen's kind of on her own planet out here. Very few storms have formed. Not fully tropical, as you would expect. The water's just too cold for that. But there's somewhat of a warm core forming here and some tropical processes. So technically it gets that name. Winds are 45 miles per hour. It's just not much to look at this point. If you looked at the visible satellite before it got dark, earlier it looked better than it does now. You kind of see the swirl, then it gets dark. I mean, it's really nothing more than a little thunderstorm complex that we see coming through here in the springtime for some. And the track takes it northward. Iceland's up in here. It'll be post-tropical before you know it. We may see our last advisory on that issued here at 5 o'clock Eastern. Here's the model trends. The GFS brings it right into Iceland, but it'll be merging with a cold front at that point. And then we have Jerry, and this one's a more impactful system because of where it's located. Not a powerful one, but certainly a rainmaker. We're getting a few inches of rain. Schools were closed in Barbuda today, as they should have been with all the rain falling. But the winds, fortunately, have not been a major issue. We are probably going to see tropical storm warnings lifted here at this point. And really, it's just the rain that we need to be concerned with. Even the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico are not seeing a whole lot of rain at this point because of the wind shear. Everything's just well to the east and southeast of the center. And earlier recon indicated a very disorganized center here with a lot of light wind flow on the western side and the stronger winds off to the east. So it's really a stretch to even continue to classify this as a tropical storm, but for continuity's sake, we will, because it may get its act back together here when we get later into the weekend. There'll be some warmer water in the path of this, and wind shear should weaken. And this could try to strengthen a little bit more as it passes and makes the turn away from Bermuda. I would not be totally ruling out that this could still become a Category 1 hurricane, but you'll see the forecast has dropped off some to a moderately strong tropical storm. So some good news there. But we still see where there were some stronger winds earlier on. Antigua and Barbuda for sure. St. Martin, St. Bartholomew, the northern Leeward Islands, but really just a brush here with the stronger winds. Most of the strongest winds remain to the east of that track. Here's model guidance, nothing indicating it's going to be a threat to Bermuda anymore. We had some models trying to show that earlier, and the intensity forecast has dropped off. We have a little bit of support maybe for this if it stays far enough south in warm water to try to become a hurricane, but it's going to be probably next Tuesday before that even can happen. Here's the HWRF model real fast. I'll show this to you. And you can see it does show lowering pressure on Sunday. It shows it being a tropical storm and then possibly becoming a hurricane when we get into Monday or Monday night, and then making a turn and actually kind of stalling and getting stuck. The reason why, we've got this big front and our big low to the west. We've got high pressure to the east. And interestingly, the HWRF tries to develop our next system. It would be Lorenzo, assuming we don't name this East Coast storm, which I don't think they're going to do at this point. It's kind of stuck out here, but it will not be a threat to anybody. It's just going to be an interesting little feature to try to track. All right, speaking of the next system, we've got a lot to talk about with this one. It's a complicated setup. Some changes today in some of the thinking here. You see there's two pieces here trying to phase. There's this upper level low dropping down into northern Florida, and there's a very vigorous upper level trough here. That's where these brighter colors are indicating some very strong vorticity, dropping down through portions of Ontario through the eastern Great Lakes into tomorrow. Now, initial models were indicating these two would try to phase into something. The European was showing that. The GFS is starting to kind of separate the two. They interact with each other, but they do their own little Fujiwara, although not technically Fujiwara because they're not tropical storms, but they kind of rotate around each other and eventually get kicked out. But here's the challenge that we have with this. The feature to the north is going to take over as a primary feature. What it's going to do is it's going to draw low pressure northward. And when it does that, we're going to see a big drop in pressure over coastal New England and the coastal northeastern coast, or the northeast coast, Jersey and New York primarily. And when the pressure drops quickly, we see the winds increasing significantly to respond to that pressure drop, just like we would see with an approaching tropical storm or hurricane. That is going to get forced from this upper level low. The system down here, what it's going to do is it's going to slow the progress of this. So what's going to happen is we're going to have low pressure off the coast that may spin around for a while and continue to bring coastal flooding and heavy rains until it finally gets kicked away on Tuesday. So we're going to have to watch this one like a hawk. It's not a simple forecast. It is very certain we're going to have a coastal storm, but the GFS also showing something a little bit different, where it's got the worst of the weather tomorrow in the Carolinas, and then in the mid-Atlantic tomorrow night and Sunday morning, and then in the Northeast tomorrow night into Monday. And oh, by the way, with this upper low coming down here tomorrow and tomorrow night, this could lead to a private rainstorm that could be actually really nasty in parts of New York and upstate New York and the central and eastern parts of Pennsylvania out ahead of this. Not a heavy wind event, but a heavy rain event. And maybe even, I mean, if there's any kind of heating of the day, we could even see some small hail out of this, although the profiles aren't great for that. But you can see very unstable in the lower atmosphere, then very dry in the mid and upper atmosphere. So something to keep an eye on here, but a lot of players on the map. It's just been a very messy map. Now the GFS kicks it away. There's a difference though. The European doesn't. You'll see the Europeans got low pressure and it's just stalled on Monday. And so we're bringing onshore flow onto the Northeast coast all day Sunday, all day Monday, and really even continuing into Tuesday morning before the system weakens and gets pulled away. So the challenge that we're going to face with this is going to be the duration of the event. It's going to come in pretty hard, but then it's not going to just go away quickly. It may stick around for a couple of days, and there's uncertainty in how that's all going to play out at this point. So definitely a big rainmaker. If you look at the icon model, you're going to see lots of rain late tonight, tomorrow, and especially tomorrow night over the Carolinas. Then the second push here, this is the warm front lifting out and new low pressure forming on Sunday. And that's set to hammer parts of eastern and southern New England and the Northeast. And that low, while not strong, is just going to continue to draw that moisture northward, and maybe some beneficial rain coming to New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont. Not going to be a lot, but at least it'll be some. And then that low just kind of gets kicked out. So of all the models, the European looks like the most threatening at this point. But the trend today is for a weaker area of low pressure than what we saw yesterday. Regardless, we're going to have coastal flooding. We're going to have heavy rainfall. We're going to have strong winds. And the areas of strongest winds I expect will be coastal Jersey, maybe the Delaware coast, Long Island, and possibly the islands south of Cape Cod as well. And we do have the threat for major coastal flooding, Outer Banks as well. We've had a lot of weakened structures due to all of the fronts that have come through. This one will be worse, so it's something we need to be prepared for. And this forecast will continue to be updated as the storm wears on. Looking first at the southeast, I neglected to put Florida in here. Let me see if I can do that. We're going to see a few inches of rain, mainly on the Space Coast in Florida over the next few days, some rain over the Keys. But going back here to the Carolinas, you'll see there's an area of rain pulled in by the upper low over the northern Midlands, maybe even Columbia, over to places like Pender County in North Carolina, and certainly the Outer Banks. GFS indicates there's going to be a few inches of rain. There could be even more. Raleigh and on northward, there may be a bit of a drier area where we don't get a whole lot of rain. We'll have to wait and see on that. But generally speaking, I would count on the heaviest rain being at the coast, but somebody inland could be surprised with some areas of heavy rain. Looking farther north into the mid-Atlantic region and the Northeast, the rain totals have come down just a little bit because that GFS is kicking things offshore a little bit faster, but we still have a few inches of rain in the forecast here for the Delmarva coastline, and certainly for the Jersey Shore, Long Island, into coastal portions of Massachusetts, maybe New Hampshire as well. Also, some heavy rain in the interior with that upper level trough approaching. Somebody in here could see a lot more rain, maybe towards the Susquehanna Valley, maybe towards State College, Coudersport, some of those areas, and up towards the Poconos and Catskills as well. So just something to keep in mind here. This is kind of a fluid situation, no pun intended. Here's the latest European, shows a lot of rain for Charleston, South Carolina. That would not be good. You get an inch of rain in Charleston, it can cause flooding, tidal flooding, a king tide. Now we're talking 4 to 5 inches. That could be a disastrous situation for Charleston, with those low-lying areas likely to get flooded. Some heavy rain as well around the Savannah area, St. Simon's Island, Hilton Head, those areas, and then up the coast as well. Looking farther to the north here across the mid-Atlantic region, we see that the European pulls this moisture offshore, so those rain totals are quite a bit less in the I-95 corridor area north of Richmond. Then they pick up again when we get into southern New England, and then you see that private heavy rainstorm. I call it private because it's not attached to this surface low. It's attached to the upper level low. We see some heavy rain potential, and that would actually be a beneficial rain over parts of upstate New York and central PA. So that's what we're looking at here. The NAM, which is a shorter range model, doesn't look a whole lot different than the models that I showed you, but it is very wet across the Delaware Valley in New Jersey. It's got the potential for 6 or more inches of rain on the Jersey Shore and a few inches around Philadelphia, especially those northern suburbs. So there's definitely a lot of rain potential here. Right now, I like to give people ranges, but just know that there's a possibility you might get less than what that range ends up being, and there's a possibility somebody gets a lot more. So we need to be prepared for that. Now, wind speeds, these have not changed a whole lot on our forecast, still quite high, 40s and 50s at the coast as far as high wind gusts, and not just a momentary gust, but we could see several hours of these gusts if this storm slows down the way that I expect that it will. And looking at the GFS model here, you can see those winds are going to pick up tomorrow on the North Carolina coast around the Outer Banks, and then tomorrow night and especially early on Sunday across Eastern Virginia and Maryland, Delaware, and eventually the Jersey Shore in the morning on Sunday. And then we're dealing with high winds all day and all night Sunday for the Jersey Shore, Long Island, southern New England, and it takes us until Monday night before those winds begin to die down if the GFS model is correct. European looks similar to what it's looked like before. You kind of see an area of stronger winds off of the southeast coast, and then winds picking up in the Outer Banks, and then, of course, Long Island and coastal portions of Massachusetts. It's not going to be a big wind event for the Maritimes of Canada at this point, but you will have some breezy conditions. Nothing unusual for you folks. So looking at the Outer Banks, tomorrow night, we could see gusts approaching 50 to 55 miles per hour. The Jersey Shore will see winds over 40 miles per hour at the coast. Then winds continue to pick up on Sunday. The European is not quite as strong with this particular model run as it had been with previous runs, but it does show a longer duration event of strong winds. It has this eye-like feature here. where there'll be a weak area of winds and then strong winds on the backside of the system continuing Monday. And even if you're not getting hit with those winds, just the fact that we've got the wave action that's coming, the fact that the water is just going to continue piling up at the coast will cause some coastal flooding. We will have road closures. There could be power outages. So just something that we just need to be mindful of. We haven't had a storm this bad in a while. It will not be a Hurricane Sandy. I don't expect anything like that. But it will be an impactful storm for millions here along this region. So you can look at your local weather service office briefings. I like to look at these because it's hard to just examine absolutely everything. But you're going to see from the Philly office, there's a major threat for coastal flooding on the Delaware shore and certainly the Jersey shore all the way up to Manasquan, and a moderate risk all the way up to near Staten Island and the bridge crossings. We could even have Delaware River flooding along the river all the way up to Trenton. So just something to keep in mind here, and certainly damaging winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour along the Jersey shore and the Delaware shore as well. From the office out of Upton, New York, we are obviously going to have the same problems farther north. We're going to see wind gusts on Sunday over 50 miles per hour. Even the Connecticut coast could see gusts over 40 miles per hour. New York City, 40 to 50. Stronger the farther east you live, as you might expect. And those winds don't come down very quickly on Monday. Unfortunately, we continue to have coastal flooding and strong winds as well. And then from the Taunton office in Massachusetts, we are seeing more of the same here. And I do think these wind forecast gusts are probably not high enough. In particular, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, Block Island, I think they're going to get over 55, maybe even over 60 miles per hour in these areas. So I will continue to update you all with community posts, and check out my Facebook page as well with important information. Real quick, we're going to look at the Pacific here. Priscilla is winding down a bit here as she approaches the central Baja California Peninsula. Raymond is beginning to pull away from southwestern Mexico, and that will likely make landfall near Cabo, but it will be weakening as well. And out in the western Pacific, I do want to show you our next system of note. This is Nakri, expected to be a typhoon with winds of 90 to 100 miles per hour, and passing very close to Japan, just like we saw a few days ago earlier in the week with Halong, but not quite as strong a system at this point, fortunately. Here's the Eastern Pacific satellite. See, Priscilla is really falling apart at this point, getting into that colder water. Raymond's still holding on pretty strong, though. Here's Priscilla. All that rain already moving on shore at this point. And you can see with Priscilla, or with Raymond, actually the rain's already beginning to hit Cabo at this point and pulling away from mainland Mexico. Here's that forecast track. It's going to bend up, stay over the warm water, but will impact land at this point. And the biggest concerns that we have with this are going to be the inland rainfall, not the wind so much. We have a tropical storm warning for Southwest Mexico, tropical storm watch for Baja de Sur, or Baja California Sur. I don't know why I call it de Sur, but the southern portion of Baja. And we also have the threat for some significant amounts of rain, southern Utah, northern and central Arizona through tonight. Tomorrow, we still have a risk for flooding across the entire Four Corners region. And then days 3 and 4, I do think we're going to see a moderate risk for flooding introduced some point on Monday as moisture gets pulled up from Raymond, probably into southeastern portions of Arizona. And you'll see the forecast from the Tucson office indicates the possibility of around an inch or so around Phoenix, more to the north and east. Tucson, maybe an inch and a half. And then you get down to the southeastern Arizona, we're looking at a few inches of rain. And this is a pretty big deal for Arizona. They don't usually get rain this heavy all at once, with a couple of storms moving through. But worst case, we could see amounts as high as 5.42 in Nogales, Arizona, right on the Mexican border. So if you're a praying person, please pray for these folks. This will be a major event for them. But we're not going to be dealing with wind problems or severe weather. It's just going to be a major amount of rainfall. We're also going to see heavy rain in the southern portions of Utah, New Mexico as well. So surrounding states, be mindful of that. So that's all I've got to share with you all here. I will be heading out this weekend. I'll give you some updates. Probably not going to have a video back until Monday unless something major happens at this point. But I appreciate everybody's time. And as always, I want to give all the honor and glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm going to finish up today, like I do every day, with giving all my thanks to God and reading the word of God for the people of God. Proverbs 35, every word of God is flawless. He is a shield to those who take refuge in him. By turning to God, by believing in Jesus Christ, you are shielded from the enemy's attacks. every word of God rings true. And that is the joy in my life. It's knowing that we're all going to face challenges and every day can suck big time. But at the end of the day, it is still a day and it's a blessing from God, and He shields us from the really bad stuff. And if you make the choice to follow Jesus and you live the lifestyle of a Christian, you are given the gift of eternal salvation. It is a gift. It's not something you have to keep working on earning. It is something that is gifted to you. And all you really have to continue to do is read the word of God, tell others about it, and have joy, because there's a lot that you cannot have joy about. Believe me, there's a lot going on out there. But when your life on earth is gone, I don't want you to regret it. I want you to enjoy what's coming next. So I appreciate everybody's time today. And thank you all for joining. And if you have not yet subscribed and you're on the edge, look, it's free. It's not going to hurt you. I'm here to present the truth to everybody, the meteorological truth and the truth coming from God. That is my calling. I'd appreciate you if you could do that. Just give me that one, okay? So I appreciate y'all, and we'll be back here soon. God bless you.